welcome to what we call the House of Organized Civil Society in Europe. Well, organized civil society, what do we understand behind it? It's basically three pillars on which this institution is based. And the first one is employers, representatives of chambers of commerce, associations of industry, etc. The second pillar, or the second group, is the representatives of trade unions. And the third group, which I belong to, represents various NGOs. I myself, I have the pleasure to represent the National Youth Council in the Czech Republic, although I don't look like very young anymore. I'm still young in mind, let's say. And our main task is basically to give opinions about different political processes and all the legislation which is drawn by the European institutions here in Brussels. That having said, I will have to apologize because after the opening, I will have to go to execute my duties here and to write an opinion on a subject which is quite close to the young people, and this is education to entrepreneurship, which is one of the topics being discussed now in Europe. But actually, before I escape, I would love to give a couple of remarks to the subject that you are dealing with, because it is very dear to my heart. I come originally from the Czech Republic, and I realize that there are probably no Czechs or not many Czechs amongst you, and that you might be missing that part of the Czech experience in your discussions. So allow me a couple of remarks. And also I would like to target your interest to an interesting book that was produced last year by Michal Žantovský, a former spokesperson of Václav Havel, the leading figure of the Czech Dissent. This is probably the best biography, which is called simply Havel, and it is the biography of the year in the United Kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. I had the pleasure to work for Václav Havel for 6 years, not during his Dissent years, of course, I was too young at that time, but during his mandate as the president of the Czech Republic. And I realized how inspirational person he was and how important he was for the development of the Czech Dissent. Speaking about organized civil society, 26 years ago, in 1989, in Czechoslovakia, we didn't have anything like civil society at that time. We had no private companies. We had trade unions, which were only a branch of the Communist Party. And we didn't have any independent NGOs. But there were a number of them working underground, such as Scouts, for instance, which I'm representing. But we had students, and we had dissident organizations. And among them, actually, Charter 77 was a kind of umbrella organization. Charter 77 was established in January 1977 by Václav Havel and a tiny group of dissidents. And it was based on human rights, because they were relating to the Helsinki Final Act, which the communist governments approved, but didn't follow, basically. So they signed the paper, and actually Charter 77 was constantly reminding them about the necessity to fulfill what they promised. And it was Charter 77 which eventually grew into the movement that brought the regime to its knees in 1989. Of course, the main actors of Charter 77, including Havel, got to prison immediately after that. And actually that was a forming experience for them, because none of them was a politician, none of them was a real hero, but actually this this imprisonment experience basically formed their future careers. Well, Havel left prison humiliated and humbled, as Žantovský writes in his memoirs, or in the biography of Havel. Havel realized that for all his determination to resist evil, he was no superhero, but only a fragile human being facing forces that might be beyond his power to withstand. I remember Havel as a person who basically who seemed to be fragile by his by people around him, and this was something that was bringing people to listen to him and kind of protect him. So they were grouping around him to protect. I can remember that even my colleagues in the office of the president, who were not classical public administrators or public officials, actually they're all with a great feeling that they must protect him and help him. And as I said, it was prison that prepared Havel and others for power. Imprisonment validated his moral authority against the bankrupt regime. And as he writes in his greatest essay, The Power of the Powerless, which again I would suggest that you read because it is still a source of inspiration for many dissidents around the world. He had given voice for the first time to an awareness that power was shifting from those with the guns to those with the truth. And as Žantovský, his biographer, writes, the human capacity to live in truth, to reaffirm a man's authentic identity, is the nuclear weapon that gives power to the powerless. As soon as the system is no longer able to extract the ritual endorsement from its subjects, its ideological pretensions collapse as the lies they are. Well, living in truth, that was Havel's motto, with an ideal that he was trying to achieve, sometimes with more success, sometimes with less, but it was that true attitude to the life that he was constantly trying to promote, and this is probably something that we are appreciating the most about him. And also his constant doubts about himself. There is a wonderful quote with which I will finish my introduction, that he said once, I think in Manila, in Philippines, in his speech, that being in power, I'm constantly suspicious to myself. This is something no communist dictator or whoever actually would dare to say, because simply this is not what the statesmen say. This is not the people who think they are powerful would say. But this is the power of the powerless again. That Havel was promoting as the way to get out from the communist regime to a democratic life. Thank you for listening. I wish you interesting debates. I'm looking forward to hear and especially to read what you are going to produce. And I hope that after September we'll have lots of interesting inputs to read and to deal with.